the online environment, okay? So we got the mobile environment, and listen to how these are all connected, because they are, right? We got the mobile environment, we can use it to access the online environment, and another type of online environment is the massively open online environments. How many know about MOOCs? Okay, just a couple people, good. All right, so MOOC, massively open online courses. It is, because you people, nobody here in higher ed? Oh, that's what you know about. So us people in higher ed know about this because it's shaking up the higher ed world. Massively open online courses began with the founder of Udacity. So Udacity, Learn, Think, Do, is a MOOC environment where you can actually pay and get credit for the courses you take. Okay, but it was started by a Stanford University professor in computer science. And he decided 2 years ago that he was going to put his intro to computer programming course online. Normally he had about 50 students a semester. How many students do you think would sign up for a course in computer programming from Stanford University online? You know the answer, so don't tell. How many do you think would sign up?
Either at Stanford or around the world?
Yeah, you put it online, so it's not just at Stanford anymore. Yeah, he thought, maybe a couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand, and then at 30,000 the server crashed. So they brought it back up, and at 50,000 it crashed again, and they brought it back up, and at 80,000 it crashed again, and they brought it back up, and it went all the way to 130,000 people signed up for this course. And out of the 130,000, 35,000 completed all of the assignments and the requirements for the course. 35,000 people from around the world of all ages and all socioeconomic spectrum. And that was the beginning of the first MOOC, okay? Massively open online courses. And since then, there are now 3 major players. And actually, Brown University this week announced that they're going to be offering the first high school MOOC for high school kids. It's going to be in engineering, intro to engineering, kind of to try and engage them in engineering. But these are the 3 big players right now, in addition to Udacity, so there's 4. Udacity, Coursera, which is a consortium of over 65 universities around the world that are offering courses for free. There's VentureLab, and so I took my first MOOC course in VentureLab. I highly recommend it to you guys. It's being taught, some of these courses are being taught by the people in the School of Ed at Stanford. My course was, Designing New Learning Environments was the name of the course. It was taught by Paul Kim, who's the Chief Technology Officer at Stanford. He's also the Assistant Dean of the School of Education, the Graduate School of Ed. So we're talking about like an opportunity to learn from a guy who none of us will, unless you can afford and get accepted to Stanford and afford to go there, don't have the opportunity. And there were about 6,000 people in this course, and I ended up working with a team of 10 people, including somebody from Ireland, from Grenada, from Australia, from Canada, from Baltimore. And it was just an incredible experience, and the content is very engaging and really, really good discussion, really good interaction. You basically get out of it what you put into it. And they had about 4 TAs who were working with us, and it's a lot of peer interaction, a lot of peer grading. So you have to be willing to read other people's work, they read your work, and they give you feedback on it. And you had to do a project. Out of the 6,000 people, 900 of us got a certificate of completion. Okay, so it's just a certificate. Didn't even have the Stanford University stamp on it. It just said Stanford University. So they're being very careful about how they give recognition for your work in these courses, but it is a trend that's coming, and I think, like this says, the future of online education. edX, if you haven't seen edX, this is the project between Harvard and MIT. And each of them have put up $30 million to create edX and to open it up to the world. So it also includes Berkeley and somebody else in there. So let me ask you a question. Why would Harvard, MIT, and Stanford, the 3, can you think of any top brands better than that in higher ed? Okay, we're talking about like the top 3 brands in college education. Why would they give away courses for free? Keeping up with the new and coming, that's one reason. Yes?
We're just not going to be able to afford higher education much longer. I mean, it's prohibitively expensive. So we need to have alternative ways of educating people that is within the pocketbook of most people.
Yeah, that's part of it. There's something else to that, and I'll get to that. Your comment?
Is there any federal funding behind it?
No, these are strictly private money. Well, there is, there are some grant opportunities. Gates is funding some MOOCs now. They're looking at it as a remedial education environment. Community colleges, I think, kids in community college, they waste a lot of money taking remedial courses, never earn any credit. You can do a MOOC for that.
Maybe because they want the United States to do better worldwide with the
No,
economy?
because anybody in the world can access these courses.
Oh,
And it's
got
more
it.
people outside of the United States
Galaxy.
accessing these courses than we are.
Maybe to spike your interest in a certain thing that you didn't know that you'd be, want to go to school for it?
Yeah, that's part of it. There's one key thing here, though, you're missing. Go ahead, well, I'll give you one more shot.
It's improving the brand, I would imagine.
Well, yes, it definitely is adding value to the brand. So the MOOCs are so it's making, MIT, so I just gave you a good endorsement of Stanford. They didn't pay me anything for that, all right? I took a course, and I endorsed their school, okay? I didn't really have to, they're a good school. But here's the thing, they're doing it because it's a research environment for them. Okay, so your comment about it's not, a college education is becoming increasingly unaffordable. What are the options? They're creating these massive databases of content and numbers of people in them to see how they're interacting with the content, and then determining what are effective methods for teaching online. So MIT and Harvard, they're doing this as a research project. Stanford, they made us fill out 3 surveys in the course throughout the 10 weeks of the course. We did 3 different surveys specifically about components of the course, about features of the course, and they're taking all this data and they're using it to improve their online education programs. So this is sort of this is really an experimental environment right now, and eventually what Coursera is doing, they're saying, yeah, this is going to become a moneymaker, and they're not going to make you pay for the courses, they're actually charging employers to give access to the database of people who pass the courses. So if you do really well in a computer programming course at Coursera, you will definitely get solicited by a company to go to work for them. They're using these as recruiting platforms. Okay, so that's what some of the companies are doing. And Coursera is actually charging for access to its database. And they're also going to charge for testing. So if you want credit for these courses, some of the universities are starting to say, okay, we'll give you credit. You have to go to a certified testing center, like Sylvan or something like that. You have to be proctored, identify yourself, so on and so forth. Take the exam, and then that will determine whether you get credit for the course. And you will pay a fee for that, as yet to be determined. Some are saying $75 to $150. And that will make education more accessible. But I have to tell you, think about this from our perspective. We have access to education, all right? We have access to the tools, we have access to the locations. In the third world, the developing world, they're dying for this stuff because they have it's always easier to implement an innovation where nothing exists. Here we're always fighting, which is better, online or face-to-face? Oh, online will never replace face-to-face. Oh, the flipped classroom, that can never be better than a regular teacher. Well, you know what? In Ghana and in Mexico, they could care less. They just want access to the education. They're not worried about whether it's online or offline, or on mobile or not mobile. Right? They just want access to the learning, access to education, and nothing exists there. So that's where it's easiest. So in some senses, and I said this to the librarians when I met with them at this session I did, in some senses, we are hampered by our past, especially librarians. No offense, librarians. But I felt like they were burdened by their books. When I said to them, could you give 10,000 books to a student for free? All right? Trying to get them to think, what's the difference here, the $200 platform versus 10,000 printed books? We're still talking about books. We're still talking about learning and reading, all right? But it's that, past, the burden of our past, the burden of place, the burden of books, in some ways is going to be a disadvantage to us going forward, I think. So these are just, this is just one aspect of it, okay? So think about this now, okay? What we've been talking about, your mind's not spinning yet? We've talked about the mobile learning environment, billions of web pages, tens of thousands of apps, right? Online learning systems, 18-month-old kids and 12-year-old kids doing stuff that we never thought possible they could do, using supercomputers. And then we have these massively open college courses from the best universities in the world. And is that it?